All right, Math 1, 1.3 practice worksheet, solving equations with variables on both sides. And that's the only new thing today, is all along I've been saying when we balance, we move all the variables to one side and all the numbers to the other. So today we're going to have to be moving variables along with the numbers. All right, so nothing changes. If we look at number 1, first thing we do is D, distribute. Do we need to distribute on the left? Nope. We need to distribute on the right? Nope. So we go to C, combine like terms. Now remember, again, like terms on the left? Nope. Like terms on the right? Nope. So we go right to balance. Balance, I just said it, all the variables to one side, all the numbers to the other. And here's where you have a little bit of an option. Okay, and this is a great example. Some of you are really not very good at negatives. Okay? So if you always move the smaller coefficient, you'll never have negatives. So that's a nice thing. Now some of you really like to have your variables on the left when you solve a problem. Well, then you just always move the variable on the right to the left. It's up to you. You have a choice. All right? I'll probably switch back and forth all year. Sometimes I'll move the variable to the right. Sometimes I'll just move them to the left. The answer is going to come out the same. It's really what's convenient for you. A lot of you aren't very good at negatives, dealing with negatives. So I will a lot of times move the smaller variable. Okay? So I'm going to move the smaller variable, meaning 4y. If we add the opposite to both sides, just like we were doing last week, those guys cancel out. And then the 15 is going to come down. Here's where it gets very important to always bring whatever's left down. 15 comes down, the equal sign comes straight down. 6y minus 4y is 2y, and the negative 11 comes down. And now here we are at a simple two-step equation. Okay, we moved all the variables to one side. Now we need to move the numbers to the other side by adding the opposite. The opposite of negative 11 is positive 11, so I'll add that to both sides. Negative 11 plus positive 11 is 0. It just cancels out. 15 plus 11 is 26. The equal sign comes down. The 2y comes down. And now answer by division. Divide both sides by 2. And we get y equals 13, or 13 equals y. And then if you prefer, you can switch it then. Okay? Now let me do it one more time just to show you that if you wanted to move the variable to the left, it still works out. So I don't need to distribute or combine like terms. So I'm going to subtract 6y from both sides because I like my variables on the left. Okay, the 6y's cancel. 4 plus negative 6, here's where you need to be a little bit better with negatives. 4 plus negative 6 is negative 2y. Take the sign of the larger number, subtract the smaller. 6 minus 4 is 2. The 15 comes down, the equal sign comes down, the negative 11 comes down. It's 15. Now I'm going to add the opposite of 15 to both sides. And I end up with negative 2y equals negative 26. Divide both sides by negative 2, and we get y equals 13. Okay, you can see it's the same answer. It's just there's a lot of negatives over here. So if you're going to do it this way, you better be good at negatives. If you always move the smaller coefficient, you're going to eliminate negatives almost from all of your problems here. Okay? So I think this is the better way to go for most of you. Questions on that? Okay, look at 2 through 6. You guys think you can handle the rest of those, or is there any you'd like me to do? Okay, let's move on to the word problem. Number 7. Write and solve an equation for each situation. All right. A square and a rectangle have the same perimeter. The length of the side of the square is equal to 4x minus 1. the length of the rectangle is 2x plus 1, and the width is x plus 2. Write and solve the equation to find x. Okay, so word problems, I think it's always a great idea to draw a picture if you can. Not all word problems is there a picture to be drawn, but in this one, pretty easy. It says a square and a rectangle have the same perimeter. So what they're saying is the square's perimeter is equal to the rectangle's perimeter. Does that make sense? Their perimeters are the same, the distance around. So how do we find the perimeter of a square? What do we know about a square? Yes?
Do you add the sides?
Yeah, you add up the sides because a square has 4 sides that are equal, doesn't it? So we just add up the sides, but it says a square, the side of the square is 4x minus 1. But we know all 4 sides have the same length, right? That's what makes it a square. So why don't we just multiply it by 4? Doesn't that make sense? Okay, and the rectangle has the length of the rectangle is 2x plus 1, right? Now think about a rectangle. If this is 2x plus 1, doesn't it have 2 of those? So we better multiply that by 2, right? Because the length, there's 2 of them. And aren't there 2 widths? And the width is that's a pretty complicated problem. But it tells you the side of a square is 4x minus 1, and we know the perimeter would be 4 of those, because that's what makes up a square, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and all 4 sides are the same length. So 4 times the length will give you the perimeter of the square. Now a rectangle has a length of 2x plus 1 and a width of x plus 2. Well, in any rectangle there are 2 lengths and 2 widths. And the perimeter would be adding up all 4 of them. Okay? Any questions on how I came up with that equation? All right, this is a great problem for DCBA. Distribute. Yep, we're going to distribute over here. 4 times 4x is 16x. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Equal sign comes down. 2 times 2x is 4x, and 2 times 1 is 2. Plus sign comes down. 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 2 is 4. So I distributed 3 times. What's next? Combine like terms. Well, over here, we don't have any like terms on the left, do we? Because remember, when we talk about like terms, it means on the left and then the right. So over here, we've got 4x and 2x. So I'm going to rewrite 16x minus 4. Remember, I always bring down the entire equation. 4x plus 2x is 6x. And 2 plus 4 is 6. Oops, and I forgot my x right there. Okay. See, I told you I'd make that mistake like I talked about earlier. Person over there forgot their x. I almost forgot my x. All right. B, balance all the numbers to one side, all the constants, or excuse me, all the variables to one side, all the numbers to the other. So what variables should I move, 16 or 6? Move 6. And this one actually works out for both of us, people who like your variables on the left and people who don't like dealing with negatives, because the moving the smaller variable. Okay, so 16x minus 6x, I'm going to move it over here as 10x. 16 minus 6 minus 4 equals 6. Okay, now I'm going to move the number to the other side by adding the opposite of negative 4, which is positive 4. That cancels out. 10x comes down, the equal sign comes down, and 6 plus 4 is 10. Divide both sides by 10, and we get x equals 1. Okay, there we go, x equals 1. The side of the square is 4 times 1 is 4 minus 1 is 3. So the perimeter would be 4 times 3 or 12. Here we've got 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. So it works out. Okay? All right, I'm going to leave number 8 for you guys to do. It's probably going to be a very similar equation. Be careful when you're setting that up. Let's look down at 9 through 12. Should we do one of those together? All right, you pick it. 9, 10, 11, or 12? 12 it is. Okay? So, again, following my rules, DCBA, distribute. Do we need to distribute? Right here, right? So I'm going to rewrite everything else. 18 minus 6a equals 4a. Now be careful, this is negative 4 here. Negative 4 times a is negative 4a. Negative times negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Okay? Combine like terms. There's no like terms over here, but on this side we have 4a plus negative 4a. What does that equal? If you had 4 a's and I took 4 a's from you, how many a's would you have left over? 0. So these two just cancel each other out. That happens. Equals negative 12. Okay, so the a's canceled on the right. That's okay, it happens. I'm going to move the 18 to the other side by adding the opposite. 18 plus negative 18 is 0. The negative 6a comes down. The equal sign comes down. Negative 12 plus negative 18. Signs are the same. Keep the sign and add. 12 plus 18 is 30. Divide both sides by negative 6. That's a. Answer by division. Negative 6 divided by negative 6 is just 1a, or 1, or just a. Negative divided by negative is a positive. 30 divided by 6 is 5. Questions on that? Okay. So here's your classwork and homework for tonight. What do we got? About 15 minutes left? Okay, your job is to finish 1 through 12. Okay? Pretty simple, right? One thing you're going to find as a bonus in my class is I give less work than my colleagues. Okay? But I expect the work to be done well and properly, neat and organized. Okay, I guarantee you every other Math 1 class today is doing this whole worksheet front and back. I give you less because I'm hoping and asking you guys to do better work than what the other students are doing. Take your time, do it neat and organized, follow the steps I've been preaching. Okay? Nice, neat work. As long as you're giving me that, I'll keep giving you less work. Ready, break.